You're listening to Flying Casual, a Star Wars podcast. Here's your host, Michael Canterbury.
It's nice having that beat in your ears, right, Holly?
Yeah, we went from one beat to another.
You weren't feeling the lo-fi? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know. It was fine.
It's just not your bag.
We went from watching a space western to listening to like low-key club music. I wouldn't even call it that.
Low-key club?
Like something
I'd like to go to an establishment that nice.
Well, then you need to go to St. Petersburg and go to some of the gastropubs.
Oh, God. I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
I've never been to St. Petersburg.
It's a nice place. Not Russia.
Oh, so what were
I'm
we
talking about Florida.
There's a St. Petersburg, Florida.
St. Pete. It's outside of Tampa.
Never been.
Lots of manatees.
Lots of manatees, apparently, guys. Have you been to St. Petersburg? I have no idea. Guys, welcome to Flying Casual Live. You know it's not Flying Casual if we're not on time.
That's right. And on time, we were not.
Well, yeah, to be fair, we're on time. We're giving Luke some time because our good friend is probably putting the kids down. I'm not even sure I gave him a time, Holly, to be honest. So we'll see if Luke shows up at some point. Guys, may have to do some editing here live, Holly, to get his visual up. We'll see. You know, I do decent under pressure.
I mean, we'll just wing it.
That's all we can do.
Flying casual.
We're talking about a guy who shoots from the hip today. Boy, just watched Holly the Mandalorian, an hour ago. I mean, I'm still coming down off the high. Varying opinions. I'm going to say on this live stream, varying opinions. It's going to be all over the spectrum. I loved it. I have issues with it. Yeah. And Holly lies on the spectrum. I think she just has issues with it. Though the past hour, Holly, you've been, well, I guess I did like this. I like that. So we're going to talk about this at length. Holly's running the chat tonight, so get in there and get your opinions in there. Yeah, let's go. Brent's hitting us up. Who's out there in chat land? Blame it on Luke. We did blame it on Luke, Holly. Great call, great pull there. Definitely not our fault, but he may stop in, guys. So you know, if we have to do a little live editing, then that's what has to happen, Holly. You may see some behind the scenes here of Mike setting up the NDI. We'll see.
He might walk us through it. It could also be a tutorial. We're live. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen. You're absolutely right. So, boy, Holly, I don't know what I expected going into this.
Yeah, I think that we talked about it on a couple of the podcasts, and I don't think that most of this.
The podcast? Like you're starting to sound like, I don't know.
Urkel?
Like, no, that not even. I was thinking someone from Chicago, but I don't think that.
Nick Miller?
Maybe.
Oh.
Maybe.
Well, anyway, we did not forecast half of this to happen. I think some people out there did forecast some of it. I don't know how.
How they did?
I don't know.
Well, that's because the world is full of leaks and spoilers.
Okay, but my question is, just jumping into it, how did these people predict Cobb
Vanth?
Thank you.
Yeah. How? I don't know. It's wow, that's a big spoiler right in the beginning. Forgot to mention. I mean, it's in the freaking description. If you can't, actually, I don't know if it is. It's a live discussion. It's full of spoilers.
It literally says The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1 discussion.
Yeah, but I don't think I put spoilers in there.
Well, why would you?
That would have been the polite thing to do, Holly. I'm not always the most polite guy. Okay?
We're going to do a live stream talking about our predictions for the episode that everyone else already watched.
No, not our predictions.
Well, but spoiler.
People do a non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review. And there's literally no way I could get away with doing a non-spoiler. It'd be the most boring discussion of all time.
Seriously.
I mean, just because the entire premise of this episode is based on a huge character drop.
It would be like that humor trailer that I put in the group where they're just like, we have a Mandalorian, he has a child, it's not his biological child, and they walk around a lot.
That's actually, you know what, I'm glad you mentioned that trailer, and I'm glad you shared it with everyone, because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
It was pretty good. It was a lot longer than I thought it would be. But
phrasing. well, we're getting some feedback there, so Holly's going to have to fix that, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know actually where the feedback is coming from. We're going to figure that out. Maybe that's me.
It came on the button you just pressed.
Well, that's because this is Luke's audio when he comes on.
Oh.
You hear all that echo? Yeah, boy, that's going to be a problem. But we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out as we go. Oh, you don't have yourself muted. Oh, what did I say before we started? This is live behind the scenes.
Okay. Ta-da!
That sounds a lot better.
Magic.
That sounds a lot better. But we'll hold off there for now. I said, hey, Holly, don't forget to mute yourself. And she said, oh, yeah, totally.
Okay,
I will mute it on Skype. Yeah, and then
in my defense, everything is muted. And then for some freaking reason, Apple decides that it's going to do its
own thing. Blame it on Luke.
thing.
Blame it on Apple. Yeah.
I will blame it on Luke. I will blame it on Apple.
Yeah, no, everything felt like it was going to go right. But here's the thing. Mike's got to have some chill music going on the stream beforehand, and that literally interrupts everything. You think it would be the most simple thing to just have some music playing. It's the most difficult thing to have on the stream.
At 8:59, Michael was like, let's try something new. Where's your cell phone? Pull up Apple Music. I think you said
it was 2 minutes till we went live. I was like, hey, can you go ahead and pull, because OBS wasn't cooperating with my music. I said, go ahead and pull up Apple Music on your, I think I said Apple iTunes Music.
Apple iTunes.
Go ahead and pull it up on your cellular device there. And yeah, thank God I'm clearing up some of the usernames in the YouTube because Jory has no idea who our group is. And that's fine, Jory. We are kind of all over the place, guys. I apologize for that. Coming off from that episode, there's a lot to digest. Let me get started, Holly. When we started talking about our anticipation for this, I wanted to be excited, but honestly, everything going around right now, and a lot of it is work, I didn't care about a whole lot.
Oh,
and that's terrible to say.
I will be the first to say that work today was an absolute nightmare. Ran around the entire evening after work.
Yeah.
I feel like this episode of The Mandalorian was the only thing that I had to look forward to today, and that was it.
But you're putting a lot of hope on one episode.
Which was a problem.
I think it could have been a problem.
It backfired.
And not to mention, Mike's like, hey, we're going live. I probably should get this mop cut today. So you just run around doing all these things.
Yeah,
set up a
at
live
5:45, Michael was like, I think I need a haircut. We hadn't even watched The Mandalorian yet. Hadn't gotten any dinner. Didn't get to work out.
Holly was getting to a point where the headphones weren't fitting on my head. That's a problem.
Hey, I have the smallest head in the world, so I know.
Yeah, that's why you don't understand. No, you don't, because there's a complete difference between having a smaller head where everything fits you.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, come on, that's not true. And then my head where nothing fits, which is fantastic. Phrasing. But so a lot of stuff going on. This wasn't like last season where it was just like, oh my God, new Star Wars materials coming out. There was there's the pressure of the show needing to perform a second season, especially this first episode where you know something big's going to happen. But then it's just like, the pandemic, work is real shitty. Like it's just, there's a lot going on. So that kind of tempered my excitement. I'm going to be honest. Like it just did. It just did. And so I'm just going to start off saying I freaking loved it. I freaking loved so much of it, but you mentioned that trailer, Holly, there was a joke trailer, and it showed the Mandalorian going around and just kind of wandering, roaming around,
a nomad.
That was a huge part of there was a huge part of this, and that's cool. I'm down. I'll be honest. We started off in this unknown area. There's graffiti everywhere. There's red eyes everywhere. There's these mad dogs in this alley, Holly, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like we're getting something new. Gamorreans are fighting each other. One of the Gamorreans jumped from the high ropes. It's like WWE up in there, and I was pumped. I was ready for it.
We did ask why there are so many like MMA fighters who are like
huge influence on this product.
Cast for this show.
Yeah,
now we know.
Well,
who's the big like fighting fan? Is it Jon Favreau?
I think probably both him and hold on. Jory said that there's a 45-second delay. I don't know what that means.
he was slow to the phrasing. I beat him to the punchline.
That's fair. You have an unfair advantage.
I do.
I think it's probably Favreau and Filoni. I feel like they more probably so Favreau. He seems like he'd be a guy to throw on a mask and go jump from the corner.
Yeah.
Of the ropes.
Can you imagine like Filoni in the ring wearing his cowboy hat and like some like star-spangled.
Wow.
I don't know.
Giddy up. like a singlet like I used to wear back in wrestling in middle school. It's the most uncomfortable thing ever when you're walking out. You're a freaking 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid, and you're in this singlet, and there's all these people around. You're embarrassed, like you hit puberty. Well, maybe I hit puberty late. I don't know, but it's just embarrassing. So I wouldn't want that for him,
for Filoni.
But maybe
we Paige said she's not a fan of all the fighting nonsense.
It's the drama more so than anything. The fighting is whatever. I mean, there's a lot of skill there, but
you know
it's the
what's
drama.
funny? When he walks into the ring and he sits down next to that guy, that guy has a name. I don't know what it is.
Cyclops.
Yeah. And he sits next to him. The first thing I thought was, oh, yeah, right. Like, there would be a seat open right there. But I realized he saved
he was waiting for him.
the seat for him.
Yeah, he was waiting for him. So, yeah, they had a meeting. The Gamorreans are fighting. That fight breaks out. It's freaking fantastic. And, yeah, I love the Gamorrean coming from right onto the table. That was just WWE written all over it. But I was pumped. I was like, we're on a different planet. This is gonna blow up Star Wars. Like we're gonna experience things we've never seen before. And then he ties this guy up. He's like, "Where's the Mandalorian that you told me about? Where is he?" Kind of a Dark Knight moment.
Yeah,
a little bit. And I was like, "What franchise is this?" And he's just like on Tatooine. I'm like, as much as I knew we were going there, and we saw Tusken Raiders, and we saw Banthas, we saw Tatooine, I was just like,
Here we go. Back to another sand planet. Michael Xander Anakin came out, and he was so mad.
I just wanted to slay everybody.
Yeah.
But no,
But not the dogs.
No.
Or probably the children.
Yeah. Well, maybe the children. But so, I knew it was coming, but it was right in phrasing. Wow. It was right in the beginning of the season. I'm just like, okay, maybe we got this out of the way. But then after this whole spiel that we go through, I'm like, okay, this is one of those one and dones that we did on A Familiar Planet here. And then the ending character we'll get to in a bit just told me, okay, we're going to be on Tatooine a lot longer, which I was kind of bummed. Holly, what did you think of our visit to Tatooine? I mean, there's a lot of issues there, I understand.
Yeah.
But we're going back to A Familiar Planet. Some of the fun stuff with the Tusken Raiders was cool.
Wait, can we backtrack to the first planet that we were on? Because I feel like there was some other cool stuff that happened that I really personally liked. And there wasn't a whole lot that I really loved about this episode. Okay. But I did like the creepy little dogs, the little red eyes. Yes. I thought that was very fitting for this episode coming out the day before Halloween. Yeah, so I thought that was really great. And then...
You thought it was Jawas at first.
I did. Well, just like the little red eyes. I was like, okay. But... when we saw that graffiti, I was like, we need to go back to this because I just imagine there are some Easter eggs in there somewhere, but I don't know if anybody else got to go back to it. But Paige and I were talking about it, and Paige was like, man, I really thought that's a good allusion to Sabine because of all the graffiti that she did, and then there's all this graffiti all over the wall.
I wonder if we saw some Sabine work.
I think that we have to. I think we need to go back and pause it. We didn't have time because of how late we started the episode, and then we had to set up for the live stream. But I would like to go back and take a freeze frame of that graffiti wall and take a look and see what's on there, because you know how much they love putting those little Easter eggs in there, and I bet there's some good stuff.
Yeah, it felt different, but it felt more like some of the darker episodes of Rebels and stuff where you kind of get that stuff, but it just, I don't know. I was pumped. It felt different. It's why I like that episode of the Prison Break one where it was kind of like a horror kind of thing going on. It just was so different. And I'm like, I like the familiarity. You got the Mando suit, but it's like everything's red and it's just kind of cool. Yeah. I like, it makes Star Wars feel bigger. And that's why I like the comics and stuff, because they can do things in comic books that they would never do in television or in the movies. So I appreciate that they're kind of going there with some of this, and then we just go back to Tatooine. Yeah.
Brent did say that there was a lot of C-3PO in that graffiti wall. So that's kind of interesting because it makes you wonder, who did it?
Boy, do you think C-3PO just went and tagged some stuff? He's just like, I'm sick of being disrespected. No one gives me credit for anything. I did as much as that R2 fella. And now you're going to know. And he just goes and just tags
I'm sure that R2 has a recording of that to use later against C-3PO.
That would actually be great.
I don't know. I mean, it just seems likely.
He goes out, tags a few walls, gives himself a nice oil bath after. I'm down.
Do you think that there are other C-3PO droids out there, and then they just tag each other, and it's droid tattoos?
I don't know. Maybe there are definitely others.
Are there
other
gangs of droids that we don't know about?
Yes.
Oh, we do know about them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Oh yeah. Well, because you have some of these novels you haven't read. You haven't read oh god, Last Shot.
Look, I'll read that.
there's things, droids coming together fighting for rights. It's good. It's good. But go ahead. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just feel like this kind of show would be a really good setting to have like the Mando come across the droid gang, especially because he hates droids so much.
Yeah. He does. Well, not as much. We know that now after going to Tatooine. But so we're in that wrestling ring though still, right? He does some fighting, which was pretty cool, which I was happy with. He just didn't blow everyone up with his Phoenix, whatever thingy.
That's the jetpack. The art of using the jetpack is the Rising Phoenix.
The Rising Phoenix. Perfect. That's what you said. I like that there was some, some actual fighting there, which was cool. And I really thought Baby Yoda was going to come out and wreak some havoc. He didn't.
He didn't. But you know what I did like?
Yeah.
I liked when somebody went to throw a punch at Din, and he just like turned his helmet, and he smacked, he like headbutted that dude's fist, and that dude went down.
That was awesome. Yeah, because we'd seen blaster bolts and stuff kind of pinging off of it, but we haven't really seen too much like hand to hand, kind of like showing how strong that armor is. I thought it was freaking awesome. So really pumped about that scene. Pumped about like Holly said, the creatures in the alleyway, where he strung up that Cyclops guy, and we're assuming they devoured him.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I mean, he was kind of like, I told you that I wasn't going to kill you, but that doesn't mean somebody else won't.
Yeah, absolutely. You won't die by my hand.
Listen, I said that dude deserved it.
Wow. I know. We're going to get to that, Holly, because there's a lot of things in this that may have deserved dying, and Holly is against it. But that guy, he deserved it. Anybody, humans, Cyclops, Holly's like, they did something wrong, murder him.
Okay,
some giant animal who's terrorizing town. She's like, but he served a purpose.
No.
Okay.
It wasn't the dragon. It was the banthas.
Well, yeah, that was yes. It's not like they purposely did it. Wow.
They purposefully
they did.
lured the dragon out with the banthas.
That's a great point. They did do that. That's my bad. I totally forgot about that.
Moving on. Okay, we'll go to Tatooine.
Many banthas were lost in this raid. So we're leaving that planet. We know we're going to Tatooine. And we go to this little town. Another outpost, another Mos whatchamacallit. We hear Mos Eisley referenced. We hear something else. But our Mando lands at, your favorite character in all of The Mandalorian. Well, what's the actress's name?
Amy Sedaris.
She
was great.
I loved her so much. I thought she was hysterical, and she was just as funny here. It was fantastic. You got the pit droids there and making fools of themselves. It was great.
And a special guest appearance from the droid himself, R5.
Oh my God!
Let's talk about R5. How did she?
This is a great nod to R5 because, guys, there's theories out there that R5 himself, malfunctioned because he knew R2 needed to save the day. R2 had what it took. He sacrificed himself in that moment, on the Lars farm. I admire that. I think that's fantastic. I tend to believe that, Don't give R2 all the credit and give it to R5. So I'm glad that he makes a comeback. He survived all this time. That shows that's a testament to his will.
Mm-hmm. His motivator looked like it had been repaired. It's fine. He apparently got traded back from the Jawas at some point.
Got out at some point, and I mean, good for him.
He deserves a happy ending.
Wow, phrasing. I mean, don't we all from time to time? We all deserve a little happy ending. So we get a little R5 action, which was great. And we got the Mando asking, "Hey, another Mandalorian around here?" She's like, there's this one in this whatever most town. Okay, yeah, Holly.
Sorry, Nettie just said that there's a story about that in a certain point of view, I have not read that story, so I will.
Let's check it out.
But for everybody
listening, go get the book right now.
I'm going to read it out loud to everybody. It's the story time with Holly and Michael.
Story time with a half bottle of red wine and a story with Holly.
But like real talk, I told Michael I had such a bad day, and I was like, he's like, do you want to drink before we get started? I was like, yes. And he like comes up with like, he puts a half bottle of wine in this wine glass, and he was like, I thought you might need that.
Yeah, slipped a few dissolvable Tylenol PMs in there. I said, let's have a podcast.
I don't think that pairs very well with wine.
No, you'll be knocked out in 5 minutes.
And my liver probably would be not happy.
Probably not, but that's okay. That's okay. So we're going and looking for this other Mando that she says is out there, right? And, you know, from all the spoilers and everything we've heard, you're like, it could be Boba Fett, but there was this story. I don't know if it was an actual leak. If it was someone just saying, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if they took Cobb Vanth, this very minimal character from the Aftermath series, who we heard was like the sheriff of a town, and he came across Boba Fett's armor. Wouldn't it be crazy if he was in The Mandalorian?
And it was crazy, right?
It was nuts, yes.
It was bonkers.
Well, the more you think about it, you had to think at some point they have to tie in Chuck Wendig's story, which was the beginning pretty much of new canon as we know it. And it's all post episode 6, very shortly after the fall of the Death Star, like Death Star number 2. Don't correct me on that one.
Speaking of, that was a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was one of the coolest parts, I thought.
We'll let him go.
And then you just see Cobb Vanth standing there in Boba Fett's armor, and it's so specific. It had to have been a leak. There's a lot of great speculators out there, but that one's just so specific of such a tiny little character in all of Star Wars. And nonetheless, some novels from like 2015. A novel, I should say. So I thought that was cool. Aftermath, yeah.
Nettie said this is making him really want to read Aftermath, so maybe that will have to be a book club.
It's not even a spoiler. Because the dude is in there, I don't know, a sentence. Like, it doesn't even specify that it's Boba Fett's armor. It's just that he got some Mandalorian armor. And because Mandalorian armor is not mentioned anywhere in the rest of the Aftermath series, you're like, oh, I bet that's Boba Fett's armor, and I bet he got it from the Sarlacc pit. Well, spoiler, he didn't. He got it from some Jawas, which makes total sense.
I have a question. Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we won't answer it because if we do read Aftermath. But I saw people talking online about how that's not actually how he got the armor, and that he was lying to Din Djarin about how he got it to not offend him. Is there any truth to that?
No, I think Cobb Vanth's a good guy. I don't think he has any reason to lie.
Okay, just another example of people online making stuff up.
Well, yeah, and sometimes it's true, sometimes not.
Or Michael's just like lying to me right now. No, it's fine. Holly can't take any more emotional trauma tonight.
No, you just go ahead and finish that wine. Zonk out there. I'll do the podcast on my own until Luke calls in, which I don't know if that's going to happen. Luke may have passed out from the week we had at work. I don't know. He may not make it. Yeah. But I thought that was it's so cool, and it makes so much sense. Why wouldn't you bring in some of that story, because it ties in so closely to what we're dealing with here.
Nettie said he knew about that scene, so no spoilers for him.
Because this book's been out 5 years and so many people spoiled so many things. And that's the thing. If you're looking at the past, this has been several months ago. If you're looking at any like Star Wars videos, discussions, so many people were talking about this. But it makes sense. It makes sense. Like we got this Western vibe. Like Cobb Vanth is like acting as some sheriff in this small town.
The marshal.
It makes sense. Well, yes, but he's a sheriff. That's pretty much what he is. And I just thought that was super cool. And then so we meet him. It's you obviously know they're not going to have this duel or whatever in the cantina because they both have to survive. It's right at the beginning of the episode.
That's what I said. Michael was like, someone's getting shot in the face.
Crazy. No, I said you're going to have to shoot someone in the face because they got Beskar all over them. And the only one that took their helmet off was Cobb.
We've only seen this for 2 minutes in the beginning of the episode. He can't just come into the shot and then die from the shot.
That would actually be crazy if they're just like, hey, guys, here's Cobb Vanth, and then 5 seconds later, he's shot dead.
Done.
You wanted a spoiler, or you wanted to draw like a huge reveal there.
Right.
Well, he would put him in for 5 seconds.
Din just takes the armor and leaves.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you know what?
Oh no.
As nice as he seems now after taking in the child and being a good guy, he sure made short work of, you know, all those guys in the wrestling ring and that guy he hung upside down. But hey, if you're trying to execute me, yeah, I'm coming after you. I'm coming after you with dogs. Holly is checking out the chat. I thought that would give her a nice route, but that's okay. You missed the joke, Holly. But so Cobb Vanth's got a problem, right? They got this sandworm, strikingly like Tremors. Holly even said, "I wonder if this is going to be like Tremors."
Oh my God, I literally said
and I was
that.
like, no, there's probably some Star Destroyer coming or something.
No, the ground was shaking, and I was like, it's a worm.
Gosh, yeah, it was a giant worm.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Like I'm out in the garden, and then the whole earth starts shaking, and like you know.
Yeah.
On the coast, you get these like sandworms and these mudworms, and they literally have those big teeth. And if you're barefoot or you put your hand in there,
you're losing a toe.
If you don't get cut by a clam or a mussel, they're like latching onto you and they will bite you.
Holly, let's be honest. You don't need a giant sandworm to terrify you. All you need is a grasshopper.
Oh my God.
20 yards away in the grass, and Holly freezes.
That's why.
Is it gone yet? Like, what?
That's why I hated A Bug's Life, because those nasty grasshoppers.
Traumatic, yeah. Not the disgusting ants that look like humans, but the grasshoppers.
The grasshoppers. Yeah. And the worst ants were in ants. A Bug's Life, they had very tame ants.
That might be the next poll. What's better, Bug's Life or ants?
Obviously, Bug's Life.
Is it?
Yeah, it has better animation. They're a lot cuter, except for the grasshoppers.
Yeah.
Anyway. This is a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, but who knows? It may become A Bug's Life. We don't know. So it's cool how they have introduced Cobb Vanth, a tiny little town, nice guy. I mean, Timothy Oliphant can be a dick, but he can also be a really good guy. He's also got a great jaw and a great set of teeth. Holly,
it sounds
hearing
like
none of this.
No, I did. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
Guys, sometimes it's very hard to like focus and respond to Michael while I'm trying to like pull in what you guys are saying in the chat.
It's what I said before we started. I said, hey, it's awesome that Luke's going to be here so you can work the chat and I can come to you when you're free for discussion. And he bailed, Holly. He bailed on us. And you know what? Blame Luke. Blame Luke.
Can you not see me or hear me?
But it's so they've got, Mando wants the armor. And he said,
I can hear you. I can see you.
Dead corpse or whatever he said. He's like, we've got maybe I've got a problem you can help me with and you can have it. Cool. Done. Let's get rid of that sandworm. So
just saying sandworm, I just don't like that.
Yeah. Sounds uncomfortable.
It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's fair. Ugh. So we go, we set off to destroy this thing, right? Like we've got, Tusken Raiders that we run into. We've got the villagers coming together, but Holly, one of the biggest issues I think that you and I had with this episode was not the introduction or the Tusken Raiders being involved, but the fact that we're going back to calling them sand people.
I just didn't think that was appropriate.
Tell me why.
Because
it's obvious why, but tell me how you were feeling.
I guess. Yes, it's obvious why. I just feel like we need to refer to them. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we discussed this while we were watching it. We were like, okay, so sand people is not an appropriate thing to call them. However, if this is an episode about bringing people together, then maybe it makes sense for the villagers to be calling them sand people because they don't understand them. Yeah. They just think they're savages. I don't even like saying that, but they're othering them, right?
Yeah.
So calling them sand people is a little bit dehumanizing, if that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we were like, well, maybe at the end of the episode when they have this peace treaty.
Away from it, even the Star Wars merchandise doesn't use that phrase anymore or that term. So it felt uncomfortable, but that's when you and I started talking while we were watching the episode saying, maybe it serves a purpose. Maybe it's to really show just how closed off these villagers are and how, this moment of unity, they could come together. Luke said he's on the Skype call. He can see and hear us.
Bring him in.
I have you muted, Luke. That's why. Let's give this a shot here. Luke, can you hear us? Maybe not so much.
I can hear you.
Okay.
You hear me?
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's.
I've just been this weird voyeur for like a few minutes watching you guys. Like I didn't know what was going on.
Sorry, Luke.
That's okay. Holly was blaming you at the beginning of the podcast why she was thrown off so much. That's
you know what? It summoned him.
You're absolutely
Listen,
right. Yeah.
Luke, I was supposed to be watching the Skype call, but then I had to handle stuff in the chat. And then Luke said, I'm on the Skype call. Let me in right now.
I will murder you. That's what he said. Yeah.
And then he said, I quit.
I quit.
Damn it.
He said, pay me now or I'm done. It's good to have you here, buddy. We got started and figured you'd call in whenever you got the babies down. I
just finished the episode.
Let's go. That's
10 minutes ago.
That was another option. We said maybe Luke's got to finish that episode. That's cool too. I'm just happy your screen popped up and I didn't have to do anything phrasing. But Holly, you only got 2 hands, so you're doing 3 things at once.
That's right.
Phrasing. I mean, you know, you're doing the best that you can. You're doing the best that you can. But so, Luke, we're talking about, we've kind of gone through some of the beginning. I want to get your thoughts here in a second. But right now, we're talking about the Tusken Raiders coming back into play and how uncomfortable it was when they were introduced as Sand People again. And we were talking about getting away from that term. And even like Star Wars merchandise doesn't use that term anymore. And so it was uncomfortable, but Holly and I thought while watching, we started talking. We're like, maybe there's a purpose there. Maybe these villagers are coming together. Maybe there's a story here of unity. And you know what? We didn't know those people. We were just intimidated or scared by them. We came together. We found out they can be our friends. And now we look at them as Tusken Raiders, even though Din Djarin uses it interchangeably. And I'll be honest, guys, when we were in that little cantina or whatever there, and they're talking to the villagers saying, hey, we got to come together to defeat the sandworm. And they started screaming, maybe some slurs. It felt, I don't want to offend anybody here, and not to get political. It felt like a bit of a Trump rally. I don't want to go too deep there, but it felt like a bit of a Trump rally in small town America, probably my hometown. And I was just like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. But that's why I thought maybe it's serving a purpose. Luke, were you offended by that, or were you also thinking maybe there's something here? Maybe this is just we're seeing the universe as it is. These people that don't understand them, they have this. And maybe that's not even technically like a really a terrible term in Star Wars. It's just our culture. But what did you think of that, man? Anything at all?
When you reference politics, I'm picturing this is going way back a little bit, 2008, when that old lady at the McCain rally.
Let's go.
Was like, Obama's an Arab and I can't trust him. And then picturing that lady as the townspeople.
Yeah.
And then the Mandalorian is John McCain saying, no, he's a good guy.
He's a fine man.
That might be the only time the Mandalorian will ever be compared to John McCain.
Maybe. I mean, maybe
they're
Maverick.
Westerners.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was a little surprising to see that term come back, because like you're saying, it hasn't been in play. But I think like you're saying, it could have been used to show that the townspeople were using it as a term to sort of otherize.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not saying here's an endorsement of this term from the creators, but like here's showing that these people have a prejudice.
Yeah.
And an animosity towards this group.
Yeah.
By using this term rather than the Tusken term.
Yeah.
Because like without being able to see the mouth movements of the Mandalorian, I know this is a pet peeve of Michael's. I had the closed captions on too, because I have to turn the speakers onto night mode when the kids are asleep.
Oh man.
So it also helps to have the subtitles on too, and I have it kind of a little quieter. So in all the dialogue on the closed captioning, it always referred to them as Tusken, and it said they're speaking Tusken. Yeah. In parentheses, whenever they were doing their speech.
Yeah.
So definitely that's still the official term. Is Tusken.
Yeah, it felt like, and I think that's why I was kind of let down at the end of it, because I was like, that's a cool moment. Yeah, they came together, but I would have liked to have seen that, right? They don't have to get along for the rest of the time, but they came together in that moment, defeated it. It would have been nice to see a little bit of a celebration.
Some stability, more. I mean, just something.
Yeah, and I get that's kind of nitpicky, but overall, they kind of that was the message, and I understand that. But
okay, so here's a question. Going back to the scene where they decide that they're going to go find the sandworm, and then they're riding through the canyons on their speeders.
Which some of the folks pointed out, and that's what I told Holly. I was like, kind of looks like an old engine of Annie's pod racer, but a lot of pod racers there on Tatooine. So I'm sure there's lots of parts everywhere that could have been anybody's pod racer, but kind of look like Annie's.
I mean, was it? Were parts of it?
I don't know. That's in the little nugget you'll have to ask.
Of the style of Anakin's.
Yes, it absolutely was. And he kind of hollowed out his seat there that he could just, sit in. But
But you figure, like, in the history of Star Wars, like, okay, it's got to go down in lore that this little kid wins the Boon to Eve race back in the day. So maybe a bunch of pod racers start building their pods to look like his, So
that's true.
There could be a bunch of replicas out there.
I want to be like the annoying human boy. Yeah, that's probably what Sebulba was saying after it.
How much Cobb Vanth have you guys talked so far?
Just kind of like his reveal and how we talked about the original the opening scene in that alleyway and how cool it was just to be somewhere different with the artwork. We even thought maybe some of Sabine's spray paints were up there that we kind of missed. That would be interesting to go back and look. Those red eyes of those like alley dogs, like it was just so cool. It felt different. And I knew the entire time we were coming back to Tatooine at some point in this series. And then the dude's like, yeah, I saw a man doing Tatooine once. It's like, oh, Christ. Okay, we're going back to Tatooine. I was enjoying so much of what we were getting.
It's funny. When this scene was in the trailer, that opening wrestling arena scene, I could have sworn the one-eyed Cyclops dude was Favreau's voice. But did you guys catch in the credits who that was?
No.
It's John Leguizamo.
Okay.
Oh, that's what...
Who's that? Who is that? Remind me. That I may be uncultured, but who is that?
I think Paige mentioned him.
He's in a ton of stuff. He's like a Latin, like Latino Hispanic guy. He's been in so many things. I don't know what he's best known for, but like I've seen him in tons of stuff.
He was another creature I could barely understand with that mask.
Romeo and Juliet.
Ooh, hello.
That's what Paige said.
Steamy.
Yeah, but in the preview, I could have sworn the voice was Favreau.
Sid from Ice Age.
He was Sid from the Ice Age, Holly said, going
not
deep into IMDb.
Not from the Ice Age, it's Ice Age. And that wasn't from IMDb,
no, I'm not
that was
talking
from the
about the actual Ice Age that, historically took place, Holly. I am talking about the feature film Ice Age, yes.
Just like we have the YouTube and the Facebook.
Exactly. Hey, when you hit 30, everything becomes the something. But so we thought it was cool, that we were going there. Yeah, it's familiar and stuff, but I don't know about you, Luke. I remember several months ago this came out that somebody either speculated or there was a leak that Cobb Vanth was going to be in this season. And it just felt so random at the time. You're like, this dude was like in one sentence of Aftermath from 2015. And I think the only thing they said was he's like the sheriff of a town and somehow he got a hold of Boba Fett's armor. And you're like, there's so many references in Aftermath to little things like that. And they'll never see the light of day in a feature or a television show. But it had to have been a leak. It was just so specific. It had to have been a leak, I think, but it felt right. I enjoyed Cobb Vanth. It was, it felt like a proper way to get us introduced to the end that we saw. But what did you think of that? Were you blown away, or were you just like, okay, it was kind of spoiled for us several months ago?
Yeah, coming right out of the gate with one of the rumored actors playing one of the rumored characters that was in so many of the reports, it makes me wonder, geez, are all the reports spot on?
No.
Yeah. Because like now it's like, oh man, we know too much.
Yes.
But I love it. I love that it's obscure and it gives that little like reward to the hardcore fans. But here's how I think it came about. I don't think Jon Favreau has ever read Aftermath. So I don't think he read Aftermath and was like, I got to use this Cobb Vanth character for sure.
Yep.
I think the way it came about is he wrote this character like, okay, Boba Fett fell in the Sarlacc pit, okay, and then I bet the Sarlacc spit out his armor once he was done with him.
Yep.
And then what happens to anything that's lying around on Tatooine?
Yeah.
Some Jawas come along and grab it. So I think this is the way that Favreau develops his story, and then the story group or Filoni or whoever comes along and says, "Oh, I see you wrote this character, this guy who just happened to Boba Fett's armor right now.
Yeah.
That guy already has a name.
Yeah.
In canon.
Yep.
And let us tell you what it is. And Favreau was like, oh, sure, we can call him that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't think it changed or influenced anything that Favreau wrote for the story and the character. I think he wrote the story and the character, and it just so happened like perfectly fit Cobb Vanth. And they're like,
absolutely
okay, let's
right.
make him Cobb Vanth, because then the fans will love that as a little reward for them reading the books. So I think it was all just probably serendipitous and just a nice that it worked out that way.
You're absolutely right. It felt like the main storyline of this season was going to be Boba Fett's coming back somehow. And how are we going to introduce that? We need something to set it up. And you're absolutely right. That seems like it was Favreau's idea. He probably wrote this 4 years ago. So he had this, like, we're bringing Boba Fett back. It'd be cool. And then he's like, this, we got to get him in here somehow. And then, Dave Filoni says, well, there's this book 5 years ago, and his armor's actually mentioned, Holly.
Okay, so first of all, you jumped way ahead to the big spoiler at the end.
Well, I said,
told people in the group to hold off on talking about it.
Podcast.
No. I definitely did not say that. But okay, let's talk about Boba Fett's armor.
Okay.
Because we were talking about how it would have come out of the Sarlacc.
Yes.
Okay,
wow.
so Scotty said...
From the mouth, yeah.
Now I have to find Scotty's comment. So proceed, and when I find it, I will read it. Oh, yes. Yeah. He said the book talks about how the Sarlacc pit unearthed itself, right?
Yeah.
Injured from the sail barge explosion.
Yeah.
So theoretically, is that how we think the Boba Fett got out, or how the armor?
I think I don't know, because Boba Fett seems pretty whole there, right? Like, he looked a little scarred up, but it's like, you're not missing any limbs. Like, how complete was his armor? But look at, that's the other thing, and now it felt like Din Djarin going in with Beskar armor into this whatever. Dirt slug. What was it called? Slug. A dragon?
No. Crate dragon. Guys.
Crate dragon. Yeah.
Crate dragon.
Dirt
1977.
Holy moly!
So you see him go inside, but before you see him go inside to blow this thing up, you were seeing people dissolve on impact after getting covered with this acid that it was spewing out. Hold on. Yeah.
I want to go back to what you said about Boba Fett being in one piece, because I feel like losing a limb is a rite of passage in Star Wars. And
for Skywalkers.
I mean, not just for Skywalkers.
Who else did?
Darth Maul lost half his body.
That's not a
That's not a limb?
That's half of his body. That's different.
Oh my God. I feel like if Boba Fett had to come back, he has to have lost something other than his dignity.
I mean, it's just, so there's a lot of explaining to do, because even if, and this is really nitpicky, but like, that armor doesn't cover up every inch of your body. So maybe that's what you were seeing, the scars and stuff. It's where the best scar leaves,
you know what? The armor also did not cover up every inch of Timothy Oliphant's body.
It looked a little small on him, didn't it?
It did.
He's a tall guy.
And I said that, and Paige reminded me, the armor wasn't made for him, Holly.
You're right. Made for a much shorter man, and but it did look like a Halloween costume on him. I want to say that. It did look like he was wearing a child-sized costume. I've done it. I've got away with it.
But it just kind of goes to show you that the armor wasn't for him. Like, he shouldn't have it.
Exactly. You got to melt that down. You got to make your own.
Goodbye.
You got to make your own. But so it feels like, Din goes in there and uses his electroshock tip of his rifle and gets out of there kind of unscathed. So something similar could have happened with Boba Fett. We're not really certain, but it's interesting. So I think Luke's dead on. I think it was going to happen all along. It's just, how do we introduce him? What is his purpose going to be? And then you kind of think, well, obviously that armor is very important to him, not just as like, we know he's not really a Mandalorian, but he's attached to that armor, right? He lost his father. And so it's probably, he's on a mission here. And maybe that was the character that we saw the feet of in season 1. Maybe that was him. I don't know, but he looked pretty solid there. Tamura Morrison, am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are correct.
Yeah, he looking good, a little scarred up, but he's got double rifles going on, some old school, look like even like Tusken Raider rifles. So he's just out there, just pulling a Ben Kenobi, just trying to survive, find his armor, and who knows what. But I thought it was a great introduction to get him on board and give him a reason. And props to the people in the trailer when they see Din Djarin's speeder take off, and they took a freeze frame of the back of that speeder and said, "That looks like Boba Fett's jetpack." It's like, I rolled my eyes when I said that. Okay, guys, that's a stretch.
Okay.
They were exactly right.
We have a couple things
Yeah.
going on in the group.
Okay.
So we'll take a pause. I'll read some of the comments. Laz elimination, I'm
Yeah.
sure that's somebody that we know. If not, welcome.
Yeah.
Said, I think that he escaped when the crate dragon ate the Sarlacc. In Legends, he boosted out with a jetpack. Maybe a combination of both.
Absolutely.
I don't know where he would have lost the armor, though.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like I don't know. It kind of feels like there's a different way out of that thing, and he got out because his armor's gone, right? I feel like if his armor's that important, he's going to grab his armor immediately, right? It almost is like he was stuck in there for a bit, and the armor was spit out kind of like, through a digestion process. I don't know.
Or like, that's just no good to me, and I don't like the way it tastes.
Yeah, no, that it could be, and that's the thing. I would think Boba would go grab his armor and then kind of get out of Dodge. But
I guess like when you're like in a dire situation like that, maybe like reason isn't the first thing that you go for, and you're just in that like fight or flight, and you're
Boba
like
Fett reasonable.
No, but
I don't think he has much reason.
But he is human, so he does have that response. So it could have been like, I just got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean, a clone, but a human.
Yeah,
we're not getting too picky.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. Luke, let me get your overall impression. I mentioned at the beginning of this, I was pumped, but like there's so much this was so different than season 1, right? It's just as unexpected. We know something big's going to happen, but then the world around us is happening. Work has been a nightmare. So I felt like all my hopes and dreams were on this one episode, this 15-minute episode of something, bring Michael back to the light. Like, I felt like I put too much pressure on it. And, there's all these, like you said, there's all these leaks and spoilers out there that we've all read because we're all saying, that's crazy. Cobb Vanth isn't going to be in this show. And then it happens. Right. And now you start thinking about all the other stuff we've read. So I wasn't let down, but, it didn't have that level of excitement as I had before. How did you react after watching this first episode?
I mean, in terms of talking about like this season versus season 1, I think this show continues to be this beautiful symphony of Star Wars.
Yeah,
and I think that is true in season 1 and true in this first episode of season 2. Like you think about an orchestra made up of these different sections, strings and woodwinds and what percussion.
Yeah.
And all these different pieces, and you bring one section up, and then you let the other section down, and then another section comes up, and then they all come together. And I feel like the way they pull in the different parts of the Star Wars nostalgia and like play up. I mean, it's heavy on the original trilogy, but then you get these beautiful notes of prequel trilogy when you see the pod racer engine is Cobb Vanth's speaker. I think it plays beautifully, and it warms the Star Wars fans' heart. Like when you first see the crate dragon coming into town and its ridges of its back start to break the sand, I started going, "Crate dragon!" Because you see in A New Hope that skeleton.
Yep.
C-3PO walks by it in the desert, one of the early scenes, and then it's supposed to be a crate dragon call that Ben Kenobi uses to scare away the Tusken Raiders after they've knocked Luke out. So there's all this crate dragon familiarity from way back when, but we've never actually seen a living one. And Favreau keeps just plucking these things out from like his own childhood. You can tell he's like, man, what would it be like?
Yeah.
If there was an actual crate dragon, and now he's living this out, these dreams and fantasies of his childhood. So it's really special to see, and then I think you have somebody like Filoni alongside of him helping kind of piece together the canon and help him stitch and knit it together so that it flows with the modern canon. maybe we'll wait because I have some more on the Tamira Morrison part. If we want to wait for a little bit more of that, or do you want to?
I actually want to keep talking about the crate dragon.
Yeah.
Because I know some people were like Luke, you said you were super excited to see the crate dragon. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And
you thought it was Tremors. I did too. I was like, oh my God.
And
very Tremors.
That was the first thing that I thought too. But I know that there have been some people in the chat right now who are kind of like, oh, cool. Like, what is so cool about this crate dragon? And other people are like, oh my God, I want to talk about the lore of the crate dragon.
Yeah.
So what I see is that this pearl at the end that comes out of the crate dragon is like a really big deal. I don't know who maybe knows, Luke, if you know anything else about this pearl and like the Tusken Raiders like searching for the pearl.
It's like the
it's
like the freaking Suka, right? Like it's like this beloved. Hey, I found it. Like it's.
No, I think there's something real big in the old EU, but I don't know it. I bet Rob would know it and he could get him to talk about something other than Abeloth for a change.
Abeloth is the pearl. I love him, but Abeloth not.
He's somebody who might know a little bit more about that, but it's like old EU stuff, but I'm not familiar.
There's been I saw some comments in our chat right here, and also I saw some people on Star Wars Explained. Some people were talking about it too.
Yeah.
But there's a game, Star Wars Galaxies, is that right? And in the game, you can use the pearl, and you can make lightsabers using the pearl.
Yeah. I think that there was some of that in Knights of the Old Republic too, as well. I think, maybe.
So apparently, it leads to Boba Fett getting a lightsaber.
I mean, jeez, who knows? But Lance told us that the pearl could be cut into kyber crystals. So you gotta imagine maybe it's something when this thing is living underground that it's I don't know. Maybe it's was this something that was canon before this, or was this just? Girl, I think you're asking the wrong nerds.
I know. I need to do my research.
This is, and that's the thing. It's like those are little nice nuggets. Is it going to play into the rest of the series? Probably not. It's just a kind of a nice nod that, hey, you know that lore that everyone kind of thought was fascinating. It's true, all of it. I don't know, but yeah, Darksaber.
The pearls come in black.
It could be. So yeah, that was. It is, and even we talked about the pit droids, kind of being a prequel reference there as well, and also the Tusken Raiders and their companion dogs. Whatever you want to call them. I don't know what their name is, but, as intimidating as they were like, oh, okay, Cobb and I didn't recognize them at first until they were standing by the Tusken Raiders. And I was like, oh, my God, these are the same dogs that Anakin sliced up in Episode 2 when he was hunting for his mother. And it just kind of triggered for me how different Din Djarin is as a character, as an individual in Star Wars, as opposed to the Jedi. And Anakin was having a dark moment, but he just went in and slayed these people. He's they're animals, and I slaughter them like animals. That's probably a lot how the Jedi act, and we see that now. Holly watching Clone Wars, you see them slaughtering creatures, not caring, other than Mace Windu. Thank God. Didn't know he was a big, animal rights activist, but apparently he is.
Also, bless, because that's the one thing, Mace and I truly get along about. My new friend Mace.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
But Din, just the man just sees respect in everyone and everything. Holly even thought for a moment there he was trying to, just like he did that blurg, trying to calm these animals down.
I was like, that's when the child's going to be not my dad. But he did. Yeah. There were no dogs thrown. Although I do have to say, when he recognized them and he put his gun down, I was like, I'm not sure what's happening, because I couldn't tell if he was like, what the hell is this? And that's why he lowered his weapon, or if he recognized them. Obviously, he recognized them. But he walks up to the one, he starts talking to it in the Tusken Raiders language.
Yeah.
And then it starts wagging its little nubbins. Yeah. And it was just very cute.
It's just... Yeah, it shows he's a well-traveled guy. I mean, he talked to Jawas, he talked to Tusken Raiders, but I don't know. I don't know if we've ever seen a character like Din Djarin who just has respect for everybody, really. Unless, you're going to try to kill him and you're a criminal, then he doesn't really respect you and he'll take you out. But, I don't know. I just thought that was I the only one that was kind of taken aback by that, and it was just really seeing him there with those dogs and just putting him right up against Anakin and saying like, Anakin was the chosen one, and yeah, he was having dark moments, but he just went and slaughtered these Tusken Raiders and these animals. And Din Djarin, respects them enough to go in and learn their language to communicate with them and find reason and commonality. It just was a beautiful thing that I've never seen in a character in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, great guy, was not doing any of that.
And then he went into hiding.
Yeah. I mean, these folks were on different planets, during the Clone Wars, and they still weren't even, making such a rapport with people when they were occupying their planet. So it's just, I don't know. I thought that was a super cool thing. And it's just, he's such a different character. As brutal as he is, he just has a soft side to him. Mm-hmm. And it's so cool. It's so cool. One thing, not a lot of Baby Yoda in this.
No.
Other than a couple cute moments. Didn't really do much. Didn't really say much. Holly, you're upset about that.
I was. Yeah. I don't know why. So I feel like there are a couple things going on. Today was a really bad day, and I thought that seeing the child do cute green bean things would just lighten the mood.
Yeah, you were on one today.
I know. Boy. And this episode did the opposite of lightening my mood.
Yeah.
So that was probably one thing. But I do wish that we had gotten a little more of the child. And I think they're like building it up. And they did say, this season is going to be more about the relationship that Din has, it seems, with himself and who he is and what his purpose is. And I kind of feel like they start to plant that seed. I don't know if you guys watched like the recap, but there was a pretty big part in the recap that focused on some of the flashbacks that Din had in season 1 about where he came from and the last time he saw his parents. So I feel like they're kind of like leading us into him finding himself a little bit more, which I'm very much into.
Yeah.
But I also want to kind of see that relationship between him and the child start to grow a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to, but I wish we had gotten more of the green bean.
Yeah, no, I do too. And we once again have another Star Wars episode or product of like, there's this creature who, yes, is terrorizing this little town, but it is another episode where we're just destroying some creature. Holly didn't like the episode where we lost what was the name of the creature that Mace wanted to save.
Oh,
what was it called in Clone Wars?
Oh crap! Oh, the Zillo Beast.
The Zillo Beast. Yeah, it was just kind of another animal being destroyed when it's just trying to survive. And I get it. It was attacking. And they needed to take it out, because it was starting to get a taste for humanoids, whatever you want to call the Tusken Raiders. It had an option to hammer that bantha, and it went for the Tusken Raider.
It did.
So boy, he was getting a taste for some humanoid flesh, and so something needed to be done, Holly. Right? I mean, we can all agree. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Luke.
In the cuteness factor, did you not enjoy Baby Yoda's
a lot of ear action,
ears flapping in the speeder bike?
A lot of ear
that
action.
was a good shot.
I love that.
And then there was a slightly ominous but somewhat funny when they're sitting around the campfire with the Tuskens, and the Tusken dog lizard is kind of like looking at him and kind of licking his lips. And Baby Yoda's kind of like, I don't know what's happening. Is that thing gonna eat
I liked
me?
him in the pot when they were in the cantina too. I thought that was really cute when he climbed in the little pot and then he stuck his little ears out.
Even when Din is rubbing that Tusken dog and he's got his little nubbin kind of wagging, that was a cute moment. I got all out of Holly. So
yeah,
there was some cute moments, and that's let's talk about some of the other things maybe that we didn't necessarily like. We went back to Tatooine. That's kind of a negative for me. It was cool to see some of the familiar things. It was a way to get Cobb Vanth in there and say, apparently Boba's not leaving, Tatooine until he gets his armor back. It's still here. I can feel it. But like, what else, Luke? Is there anything about this episode that maybe was kind of a letdown for you, other than the fact that big moments have already been technically revealed to all of us?
I can't pinpoint a particular letdown. I think a first episode of a season is trying to set up so much that's going to happen in the sort of ensuing episodes. So it's hard to say without seeing kind of everything that will follow from it. I think it's It was its nice, somewhat self-contained little adventure, like a lot of the episodes in season 1 were. And I got to tell you, I totally missed the final shot when I was watching it. I must have thought, okay, the show is over.
Roll the credits
as he's driving on a speeder bike, and I must have looked away for a minute. Then I looked back and watched the credits. I saw, oh, John Leguizamo. Okay, he was scared at the beginning. Timothy Oliphant. Yep, Timothy Oliphant. And then I see Tamira Morrison's name, and I was like,
what?
Where?
Oh,
what are you talking about? Because I totally missed it.
Did you rewind it?
And so I was racking my brain. I was like, wait, was this a total purposeful trick played by the creators? I was like, was he the weak way barkeeper?
Yeah. I almost thought that was going to be Hondo for a second. I was a little worried.
Did they just cast Tamira Morrison to play a small part just to throw everyone off?
Because then technically his credits would have been legitimate, and that's how they threw us all off. Yeah.
And so I was just really confused.
Yeah.
And then as I was the voyeur here, sitting on the Skype call that you guys didn't know I was here, I was like, I got to go back and check this thing. So I pulled it up on my phone and rewound it. And then I see him there, and I was like, ah. So, yeah, so that was really confusing. But now I'm just left you guys were talking about how did he lose his armor? How would he have abandoned it? And I'm wondering we don't know what Boba Fett's headspace is right now, where he's at. He might have purposely left it behind. He's been through a lot when you think about watching his father's head get chopped off. He was in prison as a young kid.
Yeah.
You see in the Clone Wars. He's hanging out with a lot of bad characters. His bounty hunting life eventually leads to him in the Sarlacc pit. And maybe he's like, I got to rethink things.
Yeah.
And so maybe he left the armor behind, and that's how the job ended up with it. We don't know. I'm kind of picturing him as the Dances with Wolves guy or something, sort of living among the Native Americans. Because he had he sort of had the Bantha, or not the Bantha, but the Tusken Raider looking thing on his back. So I wonder if he's just been hanging out with the Tuskens, trying to find himself.
Yeah, what if he was one of them? What if he was one of them there?
They adopted him into their culture. Yeah. Well, I think somebody in the chat said this. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was because things are going so fast.
Yeah.
But I think somebody mentioned, what if Boba wasn't tracking down his armor because he knew that, he could have been hunted down or something, if he had it on, or, there are a lot of expectations for Mandalorians wearing Mandalorian armor.
Yeah.
But I will say this, since we're talking about the Clone Wars a little bit in regards to Hondo in the chat on YouTube right now too, is that we just watched some of the episodes of the Clone Wars where young Boba Fett shows up and, tries to kill Mace and plants the bomb in his room and all that stuff. And I know everyone says Boba Fett's not the most interesting character, but I personally like Boba Fett. You guys know my handles online are Boba Fett related.
Yeah, you love pasta and Boba Fett, so that's
Boba Fettuccine.
Yeah.
I have a Boba Fett steering wheel cover in my car. It's fine, but I just the whole time I was watching some of the stuff that Boba Fett went through, young Boba Fett went through, trying to, kill Mace and his reasoning behind it. You forget that this was a child who was exposed to all this trauma. He was also orphaned at a young age, so many of these characters in Star Wars are, and I feel if we're being realistic, I mean, you can kind of understand why he would have grown up to be a little bit of a dick if you are let down that often by people who should be protecting you. And the Jedi don't treat him very well. Mace isn't very nice to him. And you're still talking to a child.
Yeah. Boba Fett's got some layers. And that could, very well be what we get out of this. Maybe, he's not a Mandalorian, but maybe he's going to kind of take up a new identity as a Mandalorian in some new way that we've never seen before with Din. I don't know. But I'll say this. So things aren't looking good for the Jedi right now in this series, because you're going to need, and this reveal of Boba Fett so early to me almost guarantees that we're going to get some Sabine or Ahsoka or somebody that's going to balance things out for Din. Because right now, Din has only been told by the armor that there was this battle of Mandalore and the Jedi. And he's heard them be referred to as like evil wizards or whatever. Sorcerers. He only knows really kind of the negative things. I'm sure those bringing him up told him tales of how terrible the Jedi were. And that's all he's heard. And so that's all it seems like he's going to hear now, especially if there's, if Boba Fett gets involved. And that's assuming that, like, him and Boba become friends. I think that could be a stretch. They could, or they speak long enough. But a lot of people out there that wish the Jedi some ill. Not a whole lot of people backing the Jedi right now, and everyone that we've witnessed. But I just think that could be a problem, and it almost guarantees that we're gonna get an Ahsoka or a Sabine, someone to say, hey, you know what, Din, actually they're not bad folk, and they've only tried to do the right thing as many times as they've failed. But Luke, is that something to you? So early on, getting this Boba Fett dropped, is that kind of? I know you mentioned that there may be hope for a different Boba Fett. It seems like he's gone through so much, though. Why else would he be there in that moment? Is it just that he hasn't left Tatooine because he can't, or he enjoys maybe he's just pulling a Ben Kenobi, he's just kind of hanging out there, and there's this battle. I mean, how could you not hear that thing, being destroyed? He's probably in his hut, and he's like, what the hell is that? I'm going to go check that out. Oh, wait, that's some familiar armor, right place, right time thing. Or like, is it just as simple as that? Or do you think he's actually like tracking this and it's a long time coming and here's my opportunity now?
Well, we know that Din knows very little about the Jedi from season 1. Yet we know Boba Fett has had plenty of run-ins with Jedi.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he might be able to talk to him more about what it means to be a Jedi. And it's sort of just like, I don't know that he'll necessarily be an adversary.
Yeah.
He might be somebody kind of helps guide our Mandalorian on to the next stage. I could see it going either way. When we speculated a little while ago, I thought it'd be cool if Boba Fett was back and, he was kind of working for Gideon, so that Gideon would have his own Mandalorian, and then our Mandalorian would have to go up against his Mandalorian. Yeah. But I don't know. That's definitely not the way it's pointing right now. So that's where my head is now is that he can give Din that perspective on the Jedi, but he's not a true Mandalorian, so he's not going to give him a lot of Mandalorian perspective. Yeah. But he'll at least have that.
To me, it seems like him witnessing now that this Mandalorian, and obviously the Mandalorian's getting a reputation because we saw there in the old Mando hideout, there are a lot of helmets and armor there. A lot of people been slaughtered. So a lot of the Mandalorians were lost when they kind of revealed themselves. So Din's going to be attracting a lot of attention. It's going to be probably pretty easy to find if he never takes that armor off. To me, Boba Fett seeing that now is going to have that much more of a reason to join Moff Gideon, right? He's going to say, well, that Mando's got something that you want. He's also got something that I want. So if we team up, we both win.
I don't like this.
Holly, bringing me down. Why don't you like it?
I don't know.
Come on.
I just feel like having so many people out to get Din.
Yeah.
Like everybody is hunting the bounty hunter.
But that's what was gonna happen. He knew the moment he didn't turn that child in, he knew this was gonna happen. And there's other things now. He acquired this armor. What the hell is he gonna do with it? Give it to some Mandalorians when he finds it? It's like you just added some more. You're sticking out like a sore thumb.
Look, he's trying to upgrade his own armor. Okay.
I don't know if he's trying to do that.
Back to the chat, we're talking about what you mentioned about having a Jedi have to show up and be like, look, listen, we need to take this child.
Yeah.
Here's why. Jedi aren't bad. So I asked, okay, who does everybody else think will show up?
Yeah.
There are a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
Also, we left out Bo-Katan when we were talking about other characters that could come up. Bo-Katan could definitely make sense. There's been a lot of talk about, what if it's Ezra?
Yeah.
Maybe it is Ahsoka. Ahsoka would make a lot of sense. I said it could be Cal Kestis. That,
oh boy.
That could make sense.
Cal.
You know what? You know
Yeah.
what, though? I mean, nobody,
Yeah.
I mean, a few people did, but like, in actuality, didn't Cobb Vanth feel like you were grasping at straws when you were thinking like...
yeah. No,
so
anything's
yeah.
freaking possible. It's like we said in the last podcast. They throw this Yoda-like creature in the first episode of season 1 and blow up any expectations that any of us had for this series. And then you throw in Cobb Vanth, who could just be a 1-episode thing and he's done. It's just like, yeah, anything could freaking happen. Cal Kestis and BD1 could show up, and that would be so epic.
I mean,
actually,
I would
if
love
BD was
that.
on his shoulder.
And I think
but he's like
people,
kind of squeaky because he's kind of older now. I'd be down.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, he needs Ray to oil him up. Phrasing. I didn't like that. Moving
Him and
on.
Ray get an oil bath.
I didn't like
Holly,
that.
Okay,
I didn't like that. I didn't like
Droids,
that. I didn't
okay,
like it.
Yep.
Okay, edit that out. Oh, wait, we're live.
Literally can't.
Okay.
I don't have that kind of skill to do that before. Yeah, anyway.
Okay, so in the live chat, I think it seems like Cal is maybe a fan favorite.
Really?
I don't know. Something different. We haven't
Yeah.
seen a live action Cal. We've just seen him in a video game.
Who knows? It would definitely tease you for a second, Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, my God.
I
Yes.
mean, that could kind of be a cool tease. Holy cow, Cass is still around now, and like, what the hell's going on with him? He might be an older gentleman at this point, but can he still wield a laser sword? I mean, Cal's a popular character. Just in like even like polls that they do that Star Wars does, like for Galaxy's Edge, like his lightsaber one, like he's a popular character, it'd be a huge win for fans. So could work.
I mean, everyone agreed at the beginning of this episode when we, even on the first planet, but definitely when we went to Tatooine, it had a very like Obi-Wan Kenobi vibe.
Yeah.
And I think everyone said that. I literally said that when we were watching it. What if our Jedi is just an Obi-Wan Force ghost? Anything could happen.
Haunting Tatooine.
Like oh, poor Obi-Wan. That would be like
I'm
purgatory.
stuck here.
He would.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, just like your socks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just laying around wherever you left them.
My wine glasses
forever.
and my half.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
Sock purgatory, wine glass purgatory. A lot of things left around in the house by Holly. But I just feel like it's gotta, it makes the most sense to me for Boba Fett. I just feel like Boba's got so much that's happened to him. He has no reason to trust the Jedi.
No.
Not one. He has no reason to trust anyone that's carrying around his armor, his father's armor, his father's head. Like he's got no one to trust. He's just a kid who's unfortunately been handed a bad deal, and he's been raised by terrible people, or a thing. So I don't know. And he's probably pissed off after that embarrassing defeat on the barge. And that brings me to one of these Easter eggs that I thought was hysterical. There was a lot of little things in there. But when Cobb Vanth is standing there by the Mando's devising a plan, and he says, I got an idea. He's like, yeah, what do you share with me? And he just hits him with this blaster and his freaking jetpack, and he takes off just like Boba Fett did in episode 6. I busted out laughing. Luke, was that or was it not one of the funniest moments of the episode? It looked like Boba Fett flying. Like that jetpack has to have a malfunction of some sort.
It's great that you mentioned that. I didn't make the connection immediately because I'm so focused on like, well, how are they going to take this thing out? What's going to happen? But you're totally right. That was straight out of Return of the Jedi, straight out of Boba Fett's original demise. One other, the symphony of nostalgia, the R5.
Oh yeah.
That what's her face at the landing pad had. That was R5 from the Lars homestead scene. They were going to buy it from the Jawas, and it's got a bad motivator.
Absolutely.
And it had the shot that showed like the burn scarring from where it blew its top, to like let you know like it's that R5.
It's got some carbon scoring.
So that was a nice little Easter egg if you catch it.
And that was like a feel-good moment, too.
Oh
we said,
God.
R5...
Hero of Star Wars.
He has a home he deserves now.
Yeah.
Presumably his motivator has since been cured.
Yeah.
And that's good. That was a good thing.
That was something that people talked about for years, and Nettie told us that apparently I haven't read all of A Certain Point of View, but apparently that's a little story in there about R5 and was he making a sacrifice because he knew R2 was the chosen droid? It's just what a great heroic moment, and the fact that he's still kicking it, just living a really chill life there. At that spaceport there, whatever she's running whatever shop she's running there. That was super awesome.
I also liked in that scene when he lands and all the droids like run up to him and she's like, no, he doesn't like droids. And then he was like, no, they can go in. And she's like, okay, well, apparently he likes them now.
Which that takes you back to the first season, right?
Yeah, I thought that was a good callback.
His interaction with IG-11 and how he's growing as a character. In one season, he's grown so much. It's great storytelling. And it's, as much as I had some issues with him going back to Tatooine, it definitely was a great start to the series. And even that freaking music, Holly, when they were going to Tatooine and you were just like, boy, that is epic and beautiful. It was just, I don't know if we've ever heard anything like that. It felt like a completely different show. That really epic music when coming into Tatooine is beautiful.
Guys, I feel like I was so distracted by everything else that was going on that I actually don't remember the music.
But could have been because we were slamming some really terrible food while watching it.
It's true.
I don't recommend eating while watching the show. First of all, I tend to eat with my mouth open a lot because I can't breathe. I have very small nasal passages. A lot of things wrong with me. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, Michael has some issues.
Michael's a hot mess.
Michael can't hear very well. He lip reads. He shouldn't eat when he watches a lip reading show.
Is lip reading considered a flaw? I don't think so.
If you're hearing impaired like myself, absolutely it is. Yes. Yeah, I had a lot of issues with my ears growing up. So it's just, man, it was beautiful. But yeah, don't eat while you watch the show. It's and you crank up the volume, and then you got this booming, whatever.
I think the dog got scared during some of the explosions
because I had it up so loud. Yeah, my bad. Holly, what else did you really like about this episode? Because I know you had some hesitations, but as we've been talking about it, this is some stuff that maybe you're enjoying more.
Yeah, I definitely think I'm in a much better mood now. So thank you, Casual Fam.
Absolutely.
I don't think that
Nettie said, does a royal toe add to that list? Yes, it does. Thank you. Only 25% of us have a royal toe in this world. Holly, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, I just don't think that this is going to go down as one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
So I probably won't even rewatch this one.
Okay.
But I feel a little bit better about it. Like, I don't know. Sure.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay. Luke, what did you really enjoy about this one? Just as kind of like a feel-good moment. You mentioned kind of that prequel love, that original trilogy love. Like, is there anything else specific that you loved? No Sukas in this.
No Sukas.
We did get a little Jawa action there in the Sandcrawler, right?
I wanted, so when you're getting the Cobb Vanth flashback about how he got the armor, and it shows he takes the Comtono of the Syclax crystals or Skillax, whatever they were, I was really disappointed that when the Jawas got a hold of him, and he was like, oh yeah, and the Jawas wanted the crystals, so they were willing to trade me something for the crystals. I wanted the Jawas to exclaim with excitement with their word for what the crystals were.
Oh,
I was ready for another Suka. I was like, all right, Jawas, now hit me. What are these crystals in your language? And I wanted them to just yell it gleefully like they did for the Suka. But I guess that sort of emotion is reserved for things as precious as the Suka, and they weren't going to do that. So that was a slight disappointment for me. But, I mean, like Holly's saying, I don't expect this to be one of my favorite episodes of the season, just because I think the first episodes rarely are, because there's just so much more juicy stuff that comes usually later on in a season. But season 2 from last season, or episode 2 from last season, is one of my favorites. So it doesn't necessarily mean you can't have, I think, really fantastic episodes early on in the season. You usually just get so much, like I said, more juicy stuff later on. So I mean, I think it sets up things so well. We're going to be just racking our brains for the next week about what the interaction with Boba Fett's going to be. It could be, this tease they throw in at the end of this episode with Boba Fett. We might not get back to it in the next episode.
Yeah.
It might not come back till episode 4, episode 5. This show did that a lot in season 1, where, here's this thing and this character, and then you go away from it 3, 4 episodes, 5 episodes, and then it comes back around. So, don't everyone freak out if there's no Boba Fett in the next episode. They'll get back to it. So you just, be patient, take it in.
Yeah.
I will say this, Del Rey books, their Star Wars, they have a separate account for the Star Wars books. Mm-hmm. They tweeted something really cryptic today, and they were just like, it all comes back around, or it's all tied together. And then they said hashtag the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of an odd, I don't know if they were just talking about Cobb Vanth, but I was I mean, maybe there's more of that too for the book.
Yeah.
The books to be tweeting about it.
Yeah, it could have been just that they were, Aftermath was brought up at the beginning of this, this huge, world, premiere of one of the, most popular streaming shows on any streaming network. I think it was that tiny little reference that it was referenced in one of our books, one of the original canon books. Yeah, it made it. Yeah.
I do want to say something else that Paige just brought up, because I asked the live chat if there was anything that they like specifically, and Paige brought something up that I think, Michael, you and I talked about when we were watching this, and she said the improvised sign language.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that was cool, because I know Netflix just came out with a new documentary about the deaf community and sign language that I haven't watched yet, but I do want to watch that. And I think that's something that doesn't really get I don't know what the word is. There's not a lot of acknowledgement to that. And there is a huge community of deaf Star Wars fans. Yep. There are podcasts out there for them. There are groups for them. And I feel like having that inclusion is very important, even if it's just for the Tusken, Raiders, who we've already talked about how they're kind of dehumanized and othered.
Exactly.
But I do think, Paige, that was a really great point, because I think that's something that not a lot of people give nods to. There are a couple TV shows out there, but other than that, it's kind of just we're not going to add in any nods to that community.
Yeah. We may have lost your camera, Holly, and I don't know why. We're going to figure that out at some point, but I'm not really sure why your camera went out. We're going to figure that out. Maybe the phone died, went to sleep, but.
Speaking of the book connection, I was curious about what Chuck Wendig's reaction to it was, because it was his writing that created Cobb Vanth, and so I kind of went to his Twitter feed to see if he was saying anything about it, and all he said was, because he's not attached to Lucasfilm Star Wars anymore. He just said, "Hey, so I liked that their Mandalorian episode. That was pretty cool." So he was happy that they picked up on his character. It looks like, but he didn't have much else to say than that was cool.
Yeah, you don't expect too much of him, but it's nice that he is paying attention and giving, I'm sure he has a lot more to say to Dave Filoni, kind of in private, but it's nice to see a little acknowledgement there. Now, I'm glad you brought up Timothy Olyphant, and I just thought what he did really well when he summarized and kind of showed us how he got the armor. I thought it was really cool seeing, we see we see on Endor, we see, our Ewok friends celebrating. You see cutscenes to other planets celebrating with the destruction of the second Death Star and the end of the Empire. What I loved is that we got an on the ground kind of immediate perspective of it wasn't, yes, the Empire was still a problem. There was still some Imperial remnant, but there were people, clans, guilds, that were just waiting for the opportune moment, that had been building up power, waiting for the perfect vacuum to just present itself. And I thought that was it was very brief, but it was a very cool moment to see that, it's not just the Hutts. It's not just there's other guilds out there and clans that right when that thing blew up, boom, we're going in and taking out these people and occupying certain territory. Like they were just waiting for the opportune moment. I thought that was freaking fantastic. It just added to that, it just added to his purpose and it just expanded the story even more. And I love seeing that. I hope we see more of that because it is such a turbulent time and the Empire is still out there. We know we're going to see more stormtroopers. We're going to see more of that. And it's great though that we're seeing, there's other people out there too that these folks are having to navigate. The Empire is terrible. Yeah. But like, there was a power grab for a lot of people. And unfortunately, these people in this little town were kind of on the receiving end of that. And it was really cool that, Cobb Vanth stepped up and said, I just need this armor to kind of give me the will and the power to step up to these people. And it's kind of crazy how the armor can do that, right? Like it's just a symbol of strength. And he just needed that to go and confront them.
I love how in that moment you see the bartender kind of be like, whoa, like everyone stops what they're doing. And then like after he pulls his blaster out, which by the way, I love the way he pulled his blaster out and truly did shoot from the hip. I thought that was a great moment.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, like you don't know what happened to him before. And it seems like having that opportunity to like have a purpose kind of saved his life too.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I thought was pretty cool. But I did want to share some of the other moments that people liked. So Paige said the improvised sign language was great. Also that Timothy Oliphant showed up, which, by the way, I asked Jory earlier in the stream. I was like, hey, what episode 1 predictions did we make on the council that actually came true? And he said, Michael, you and I predicted that Timothy Oliphant would show up, and we were correct. Yeah. And then the other prediction that was right was Michael, you and Rob and Brent were right about Boba Fett showing up in the first episode.
Guys, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I just called it. Like, I didn't think of these ideas on my own, but you're right. Like, I was just like, that'd be huge if they both just show up in the beginning, and we may never see... We're definitely going to see Boba again. We may never see Cobb Vanth again. But for how small of a character he is in Star Wars, like, we shouldn't. He served a purpose, and it was awesome, and it's a nice little nod, and we got him for a whole episode, and we'll probably never see him again. And that's okay.
And then Nettie...
You don't have a camera on you still, by the way.
Okay.
Thing died.
That's fine.
Dead.
Michael decided to use his cell phone instead of the webcam, which would have lasted
something
the
out
whole
different.
stream.
It's even plugged in. I don't know why it's not powering up anyway.
Okay, so Nettie shared the whole tweet from Del Rey, which...
Okay.
I thought was cryptic. Paige said that they do have a book scheduled to release soon. But the tweet said, well, that was exciting to see, wasn't it? We'll talk more later once more folks have been able to enjoy the episode. For now, like we always say, it's all connected. Hashtag Star Wars, hashtag The Mandalorian.
Boy, now I feel like maybe we just need to pull out more Aftermath. The entire trilogy.
Who knows?
Might have to start that in the book club.
Chuck Wendig.
Can you read him in a couple days? Chuck Wendig is not coming back into Star Wars. Unfortunately, as great of a writer as he was for Star Wars, not coming back. Once you break that with Disney, I don't think there's much coming back.
Scotty did give Chuck Wendig a big shout out earlier.
His books were great. I thought they were awesome. And the fact that, there wasn't a whole lot that tied into them, really, that we knew about the contingency plan. And then Palpatine just seemed to be kind of shoehorned at the end of the sequel trilogy. So, there's a connection, a very loose connection. He had a plan to come back or something. We didn't know what it was.
All right. Well, I'll ask Brent to put a poll in the group and see if people want to read the Aftermath.
Yeah, I think that's a good
book for the next book club, since people seem to be amped up. We went from like the Clone Wars stuff to prequels.
We're all over the Star Wars, man.
Hey,
and
you know what? It's fine.
That's what this podcast is. We're all over the place. Yeah, I am glad Paige brought that up because it is nice. You don't really think about like the deaf community not being really represented in a lot of like pop culture, really, right? It's like not something that is really even recognized. So just a nice nod, to that. It is a start, and it's cool. And I don't know, just even looking at the Tusken Raiders, it's just like they're very intelligent people, right? And they Din even said they've been surviving out here for thousands of years out in the sand.
They're very resourceful.
Yeah, exactly.
People, I think, especially in these like really sad towns on Tatooine, I think these people could have a lot to learn from the Tusken Raiders, and I feel like if they just would smarten up and recognize that, and I don't know, it's hard when everyone's fighting for the same resources.
Yeah.
They even mentioned that in this episode that the Tusken Raiders said, your village is taking all of our water.
Yes.
And I think that there's a lot to be said about the war over resources in Star Wars and how these communities are just like pillaged, and the Empire went in and took everything from everybody to use for themselves. So, I mean, it's not a surprise that we're now seeing in the show some of the communities in the aftermath of that.
Yeah, it's not just the Empire that's built, right? It's even Timothy Oliphant, as cool of a guy as he was, and saving his folks, he was very disrespectful of Tusken Raiders, and they offered him like what seemed to be maybe not a sacred thing, but a very important, beverage to them. He's like, I'm not drinking this. It smells bad. It's like he was just disrespectful in that manner. But yeah, a lot of growth with our characters there, and a lot of, I don't know, just a different light of the Tusken Raiders and characters that Tusken Raiders didn't have that big of a. They were just kind of seen as these like raiders that like were shooting at Anakin when he was pod racing, and they tried to kill Luke Skywalker. They didn't really have too much of a story, and it's cool that there's a lot more to them than meets the eye, and I think that's freaking awesome. Yet another creature character that is masked, and I couldn't understand what they were saying, obviously, because I don't speak Tusken Raider.
That's right, and you couldn't lip read.
You cannot. Yeah, absolutely cannot, especially when eating tacos. But anything else that the group's brought up that you guys have on your minds? Luke, anything else that we're missing? I did like, I'll say this, Tusken Raiders are going to be eating good for a while. Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Amen. And Din Djarin took a big slab of meat with them.
Ew.
I mean, that thing.
Yeah, what is he going to do?
That's a great question.
I was thinking that. I was like, what? Maybe that's why I missed Boba Fett at the end, because I was
just blown away,
stuck on what's going to happen with this meat slab of crate dragon.
It was huge
that he's driving off with.
I would have liked to saw his speeder just kind of popping a wheelie, right? And it's like dragging in the sand. It's like, maybe we want to cut off a slab of this thing. But I want to see little baby Yoda like cooking up a little dragon over a fire. I think that'd be cute. Holly's like, I'm a vegetarian. I didn't find any of this entertaining. At least they're eating all of it, right? It looked like they're eating all those
what do you always say that
Yeah.
Ace Ventura said?
Yeah, none of this animal must go to waste.
Correct.
It's a fantastic movie. Luke, anything else from this one? We're excited for next week. Once again, though, we have no idea where we're going with this, right? Other than Boba Fett's going to be back at some point. We have no idea.
Yeah, it didn't give us a lot. It didn't give many answers. It gave a lot more questions.
Yeah.
And that's, probably always going to be the case with episode 1 of a season. So buckle up.
Buckle up.
It's going to be a good ride.
Yeah. A lot of story to be told. We got to meet some Jedi at some point. We got to see more. You're going to see more Baby Yoda, because do not forget, the entire story is about getting this guy to his people. He said it time and time again, but he kept repeating, if I could just find my people, if I could just find more Mandalorians. What is it that they are going to do for him? Is he mistaken? Does he have no idea who the Jedi are, and that the Mandalorians actually do not like them much?
Well, I do have one small prediction, because usually all the clips we see tend to be from very early on in the season.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he might meet back up with Greef, Karga, and Cara Dune.
Yeah.
And we'll see maybe that snow planet the next episode.
Yeah.
Because I would think that would come a lot earlier rather than later, because that just tends to be the way they pull the clips in the trailer things, so you don't get too deep into the season with some of the reveals.
Yeah.
I didn't rewatch any of the last season before we started episode 1 or chapter 9, whatever you want to call it. Could somebody remind me what Greef, Karga, and Cara Dune were doing when Din left them, or did we not get that information?
They were back in the town, right, Luke? I mean, just
they were hanging out on. Oh gosh, the name of the town is escaping me right now. It starts with the planet starts with an N, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just basically like, "Oh, we'll hang out here."
Yeah.
And I think Greef was like, "I'll try to still manage the bounty hunter guild or something like that."
So
from here, and I think he was going to have Cara hang around and help him out, is kind of how they left it.
Yeah.
And that makes sense with what we've seen in the trailer. It seems like he's walking up to meet them at the gates of that city there.
Yeah, Paige said it was Navarro.
Yes.
Navarro. Yeah, I couldn't think of it. N something, I know.
Yeah, it's what's I have no idea. And how long is he going to hold on to the Boba Fett's armor? Like that seems like it's something that's going to be a hot commodity. Is Boba Fett just going to show up towards the end? And it's like,
I think
okay, what do you do with the armor?
I think the question is, how long will Boba Fett let Din carry around the armor?
Great point. Or does he become his best friend? We have no freaking idea. Boba Fett could have had some therapy and he talked about his daddy issues, or the lack of daddy issues or lack of a daddy with the head issues. Like,
right.
There's a lot of issues to digest there.
So they're at a cantina and he talks about his daddy issues, and then Din's like, at least you had a dad.
Maybe.
And then they both take a drink.
Or did he find an Ewok therapist that really guided him through all of these tragedies and helped him out?
I would take an Ewok as a therapist.
That is canon. That is not. I'm not making this up. This isn't a joke.
No,
it's canon. So maybe I think that would be fantastic. Boba Fett's just sitting there talking.
Nettie said they become best friends and raise Baby Yoda as their child.
I mean, that would be. I find it hard to believe that Boba's gotten over this. I mean, he would have had to. We got to explain that.
Look,
right?
I mean, sure.
Yeah. You know what? Now we actually will definitively get that scene that I said we were going to get. You're just going to see a hand come out of the pit. We're going to get a flashback, and we're going to see how Boba Fett got out of there. That's going to happen.
I mean, it has to.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it doesn't, but it would be nice.
I was also educated. I didn't know Sarlacc could come out of that little pit there and kind of go live in a cave. Did not know that. That was news to me. Luke, did you know that was a thing?
Well, I think there was an insinuation that there's more than one Sarlacc.
Yep.
Because they kind of talked about them as if there are many. Because Cobb Vanth said something like, "I've never known one to leave its hole."
Yeah, phrasing.
Yeah. And they said this is a Sarlacc pit, right? Not this is the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then someone said that maybe Din, I don't know, unless you kill it and eat it. Like, who the hell said that? Who's going to eat it? I'm sorry. What part of that animal, just like this dragon, is good when it's got like acid inside of it that literally dissolves you? It must be a tiny little gland that we cut around.
Hey, it's like a Venus flytrap.
A who?
A Venus flytrap.
Okay. Yeah. Is it? I don't know. Do people eat those?
No, they dissolve the bugs.
They do, but I don't think anyone's trying to eat those. I don't know. I actually talked about getting one the other day. Maybe we should try to eat it.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, guys, I'm sure we're going to sit on this tonight. Phrasing. And I'm sure we're going to digest this some more. I feel like I haven't even digested my meal.
Ugh.
I haven't even touched the surface of this episode. I'm going to watch it again tonight.
Are you?
Absolutely. You think I'm crazy? I'm going to take some notes. We're going to talk about this again, guys. We're going to do, this is going to be a YouTube exclusive. So if you guys want to come and check this out, well, you already are because you're on YouTube.
Yeah.
But this is not going to be released on the podcast. So we're going to do a separate discussion and probably continue to talk about the comic books that we've been reading because there's a couple of good ones coming out. So we're going to have some more Mandalorian discussion after we digest it a little bit, digest our Taco Bell, digest our oatmeal stout, digest the Mandalorian, just like that dragon.
Just like the Sarlacc.
Just like the Sarlacc. Sarlacc. Sorry, you guys are saying Sarlacc. I'm saying Sarlacc like I'm some asshole.
It's potato.
Jesus.
It's sabak.
Sabak. Okay, Han. Like, I just feel like I'm just becoming that snob. That's what's happening.
Lando. Michael also likes to say scenario, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, that's terrible. I try to run an.
Is it like Canadian?
I don't know. I think it's just a.
No, he says it's just pretentious.
Exactly, it is.
Uh-huh.
And I try to run a very inclusive podcast. Like, we got a good community, and then I'm the biggest asshole. That's terrible.
Well,
that's my bad. It's not made for kids.
Mm-mm.
It's not made for kids. It's White's Flag is not made for kids.
Is it?
Every single episode.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because we can't trust what comes out of Holly's mouth. So.
Oh, my God. That is so true. If you guys have done any live stream gaming with us, which we'll have to do again soon because that's really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
You absolutely know. You absolutely know. But guys, I hope you enjoyed these. I would like to do these after every episode. So we'll be, ready to go. We'll have our stuff together. Maybe we'll make the episode for 9:15 just so Holly is ready. Makeup done and on. This time, Holly, will get your camera fixed.
I mean,
so I tried something out. It didn't work.
I think you cut me off intentionally because I've drank my wine.
Things got sloppy. The Tylenol PM kicked in, and I was like, maybe at least the visual. I can mute you too. If
I have like one of my eyes is drooping, and it's just a mess.
Boy, sloppy Holly here live on the podcast. That's why you watch it. You never know what she's going to say or do. But guys, I do appreciate you coming and joining us here. Like I said, we'll talk about it on a Monday podcast here coming up in a couple of days. But it was exciting. A lot to digest. A lot of Boba Fett to digest. A lot of speculation because we honestly have no idea where we're going. But we are going to get there all together. So expect another live episode next Friday. Podcast coming out this Monday. I appreciate all you guys in the chat, keeping things going. You have been fantastic. That was an awesome chat. Holly, fantastic freaking job. I wish I could cut to your camera right now to show that one eye. But really awesome job running that chat, getting it, going there in the beginning. It just everything's working out well, so we'll iron some things out, guys. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Let's keep the discussion going in the group there on Facebook. So if you're kind of new here, checking things out, go join the Facebook group. A lot of speculation going on there. I don't think anyone came up with the Cobb Vanth, speculation in our group, but whoever did, props to that person.
Yeah. And
props to all those freeze framers from the trailer catching that that Boba Fett armor. But guys, I do appreciate the hell out of you, and we will see you next time. May the